The storm over Viranine howled like a grieving god. Lightning danced over the iron-blue sky, slicing through endless clouds of dust that swirled around the barren plains. Captain Elias Rourke pressed his hand against the shuttle's cracked viewport, squinting through the blur. "Something's moving out there," he muttered, voice taut. Private Lena Solon, his co-pilot, turned to look. "Sir, it's humanoid." The scanner buzzed weakly, barely functional after the crash, but the reading was unmistakable. A single life form stumbling through the storm. Not a soldier, not a raider, just fragile. Elias grabbed his oxygen mask and kicked open the side hatch. "Stay here. I'll check it out." He stepped into the storm. The metallic rain stung his armor like needles, and his boots sank into the mud with each step. The figure ahead collapsed, a shimmer of silver fabric and pale light. He ran faster. When he reached her, his heart stopped. It wasn't a soldier. It wasn't even human. It was a girl, her skin faintly iridescent, almost like glass under starlight. Blood, glowing faintly violet, seeped from a wound on her side. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes half closed, eyes that shimmered like liquid gold. Elias knelt beside her. "Hey, you're gonna be fine. Do you hear me?" Her lips parted slightly and a whisper escaped, a sound both alien and heartbreakingly familiar. "Don't let them find me." Then she went still. Elias's pulse hammered. The soldier in him screamed to return to the ship, to call command, to report this discovery. But the human in him, the part that still believed in right and wrong, lifted her gently from the ground. Her body was cold, unnaturally light, as if she were made of air. He carried her back through the storm, shouting to Lena, "Open medbay. Now!" They laid her on the table. Lena's eyes widened. "Captain, she's not from any race I've ever seen." "I know," he said softly, "but she's bleeding all the same." Lena hesitated, then began working, sealing the wound with field gel, stabilizing her pulse. The scanners flickered with strange readings, molecular patterns far beyond human genetics. After long minutes, the girl's breathing steadied. Elias leaned against the wall, exhaling. "We need to contact command." Sir," Lena interrupted, pointing to the monitor. "You might want to see this first. A transmission signal was detected, ma'am, but not from their ship." From her, the signal carried a crest, a sigil shaped like a radiant crown surrounded by 7 moons. Lena whispered, "That's the royal emblem of the Lyrians. Sir, she's not just anyone. She's the princess." Elias finished grimly. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The implications were staggering. The Lyrian Empire was the most advanced civilization in the Orion Belt, powerful, ancient and merciless toward those who interfered with their bloodline. And now, one of their own, a royal, was bleeding aboard a broken human vessel. Elias looked down at the unconscious girl. A strand of silver hair clung to her cheek and her hand twitched weakly as if trying to grasp something unseen. "She's just a child," he murmured. "What could have possibly driven her here?" Then through the static of their comms, a warning flashed across all frequencies, urgent, cold, and echoing across the stars. "Attention all vessels. The Lyrian princess has gone missing. Any species found harboring her will face immediate planetary retribution." Elias and Lena exchanged a look. In that silence, one truth settled between them. Whatever had brought this princess to their doorstep, humanity had just stepped into a storm far greater than the one outside, and neither of them knew if they would survive what came next. The medbay lights flickered as the storm raged on outside. The hum of damaged engines filled the silence between Elias and Lena, both staring at the unconscious princess lying on the table. The alien girl's breathing was shallow but steady, fragile like glass on the verge of breaking. "She's stable," Lena whispered, brushing her damp hair back. "But her biology's different. I've never seen cell structures like these. They're crystalline, almost reflective." Elias exhaled slowly, running a hand down his face. "And we're harboring her. Captain, if the Lyrians find out we touched their royalty, they'll burn us out of the sky," he finished grimly. A moment of silence passed. Then the ship's lights dimmed further. A low hum filled the room. The console flickered alive, showing symbols neither of them recognized. The princess's body twitched. "Lena, step back," Elias warned. Her eyes opened. Golden light spilled from her pupils, not glowing in a violent way, but soft, trembling, as though she were awakening from centuries of sleep. She blinked, and for the briefest second, those luminous eyes met his. Human. Her voice was faint, musical, and aching. "Why did you help me?" Elias hesitated. "Because you were dying." Her lips quivered. "You should have let me fade. Now they will come for you too." "Too late," he said dryly, gesturing toward the comms. "The entire galaxy knows you're missing." The princess slowly sat up, clutching her side. "Then they will scour every world until I am found." "Why?" Lena asked quietly. "You're their princess. Wouldn't they want you back?" The girl's gaze turned distant. "You don't understand. The Lyrian crown. It's not just power. It's control. My father built empires by silencing galaxies. When I learned what he was doing, I tried to stop him. They called it treason." Elias frowned. "You ran away." "I escaped," she corrected softly. "But not before they sent hunters after me." Outside, thunder cracked like the roar of a dying planet. Elias crossed his arms, studying her. "So you came to human space, why us?" Her golden eyes turned toward him again. "Because humans resist." She said it as though it were both a compliment and a mystery. "When our fleets conquered a dozen systems, your kind fought back, even when you had no chance of winning. That kind of defiance, I needed to see it for myself." He gave a small, bitter laugh. "You picked a fine time. Our ships are grounded, our colonies scattered. Resistance doesn't look pretty up close. And yet you helped me," she said softly, eyes searching his, "even when it meant death." Elias had no answer. Lena cleared her throat. "We can't stay here. If the Lyrians scan this planet, we're done." "She's right," Elias said. "We need to move her off-world." The princess shook her head. "If you move me, they'll trace the warp signature. You'll lead them straight to your people. Then what do you suggest?"
he demanded. She hesitated.
"Hide me, let me heal. When I am strong enough, I will call them off." Elias's jaw clenched. He wanted to believe her, but something in her tone carried centuries of sorrow and secrets. Still, he nodded. "Fine, but if you betray us, I won't," she whispered. "I owe you my life." Then, as she leaned back on the medbed, her golden gaze flickered toward the ceiling and her lips moved soundlessly. A pulse of light rippled from her, faint but unmistakable. Lena gasped as her wrist scanner lit up. "What was that?" she asked. Elias leaned over the console and froze. A distant signal had been sent from the princess's body, but it wasn't a distress call. It was something stranger, an encoded human transmission. Elias's heart pounded. She didn't just crash here. Someone sent her. The princess turned her face toward him, eyes gleaming faintly. "Captain Rourke, the galaxy is not what you think it is, and soon your kind will have to choose a side." Outside, lightning flared, might as if the stars themselves were listening. For 2 nights, the solace drifted in silence. The storm on Vera 9 had passed, leaving behind a world of cold silver plains and violet skies. The air shimmered faintly with metallic dust, and the wrecked shuttle looked like a wounded bird half buried in the sand. Inside, Elias stood by the viewport, watching the stars. His mind raced through every protocol he was breaking, harboring an alien royal, cutting off communications, running dark. It wasn't bravery, it was madness. Behind him, Lena's voice broke the silence. "She's awake again." Elias turned. The princess, Aria, she had said her name was, sat by the medbay window wrapped in a blanket staring at the horizon where twin moons hung low. Her wound had closed, leaving only a faint silver mark, but her eyes carried a tired sadness as though she were older than the stars she ruled. When Elias approached, she didn't look up. "You should have left me out there." "Yeah," he said dryly. "But I've never been good at following orders." Her lips curved faintly. "Humans and their defiance." She finally met his gaze. "It's beautiful. Dangerous but beautiful." Elias crossed his arms. "You said your father was building something. Control over galaxies. What does that mean?" Arya hesitated. "He's constructing what we call the Crown Array, a network of suns linked through quantum bridges. Once completed, it will let him reshape space itself. Every empire, every species will bend to his will. Or burn." Lena's eyes widened. "He can't, that's insane. That kind of energy would destroy half the Orion belt," Arya finished quietly. "Yes, but he believes it's the only way to ensure peace." Elias let out a slow breath. "Peace through fear," she nodded. It's how Lyrians have ruled for centuries. I thought I could change it. I tried to speak against him. Her voice cracked. He called me a traitor. I escaped before the executioner's blade fell. The room fell silent. Elias leaned against the console, his expression softening. So now you're the most wanted person in the galaxy. Arya gave a weary smile. Seems we have that in common. Humanity's always been wanted for extinction. Outside, a faint rumble shook the hull. Elias tensed instantly. Lena, what was that? She checked the sensors. Unidentified ship entering orbit. Stealth signature, triangular hull, Lyrian hunter class. They found us, Arya stood. No, they shouldn't have. I masked my signal. Elias's tone hardened. They tracked your escape pod. He grabbed his rifle and turned toward Lena. Power up the decoy drones. We'll buy time. Lena moved fast, fingers flying across the console. The Solace's external lights dimmed to black as 4 small drones shot into the air, scattering in different directions like flares of light. Through the viewport, a sleek black Lyrian ship broke through the clouds. Predatory, elegant and utterly silent. Elias muttered. They look like sharks. Arya's voice trembled. They are worse. The Lyrian vessel descended lower, its energy scanners sweeping the plains. Elias felt the heat in his chest. Fear, anger, resolve all colliding. Lena, get her below deck, he ordered. If they board you... The comms crackled. A cold metallic voice filled the cabin. Human vessel. You are harboring property of the Lyrian crown. Surrender immediately or be erased. Elias clenched his jaw. Property? He looked at Arya. That's what they call you? She met his gaze steadily. To them, yes. To you, I can only hope to be something else. The scanner alarm blared. The Lyrian ship charged its plasma array. Lena whispered, Elias, we can't fight that thing. Elias tightened his grip on the console. We don't fight. We run. He slammed his palm on the throttle. The Solace roared to life, engines sparking blue fire as it shot off across the desert. Plasma bolts rained down behind them, exploding into waves of dust and fire. Arya clung to the rail, eyes wide. You'll never outrun a hunter. Watch me, Elias growled. The ship veered into a canyon weaving between jagged cliffs. The Lyrian pursuer followed, its guns blazing. One bolt clipped their tail fin, sending the shuttle spinning. Stabilizers down. Lena shouted, keep her steady. Elias barked. Arya's hands glowed suddenly. Faint gold light wrapping around the console. The shaking eased. The engines hummed smoother. Elias shot her a look of disbelief. What did you just... I helped, she whispered. Just fly. The canyon opened into a wide valley and Elias dove low, skimming the ground before triggering the last decoy. It exploded behind them in a flash of energy, enough to confuse the hunter's scanners. Seconds later, the radar went dark. Lena gasped. They lost us. Elias slumped back, heart pounding. Arya looked toward the horizon, her voice soft but certain. You don't realize it yet, Captain. But saving me just changed the course of the galaxy. Dawn crept over Vera 9 like a pale ghost. The wrecked horizon shimmered under soft light, the metallic dust glowing pink and silver. The Solace rested hidden beneath the jagged cliffs, engines still smoking, hull scarred from the chase. Inside, silence lingered like a held breath. Elias sat by the engineering bay, his head buried in his hands. He had faced battles before, pirates, mercenaries, raiders, but nothing like this. This was bigger than war. This was politics written in blood and starlight. Lena broke the silence. Fuel cells are half drained. Stabilizers are gone. We can't make orbit again, sir. Elias looked up slowly. We'll fix it. We always do, she sighed. Even if we repair her, Captain, where do we go? The Lyrians will keep searching. You saw how fast they tracked us. He had no answer. Then the medbay door opened and Arya stepped out. She had changed into a spare flight jacket, its oversized sleeves brushing her hands. Despite her alien grace, there was something heartbreakingly human in her weariness. Your machines are remarkable, she said softly. Crude but resilient, like your people. Lena managed a tired smile. Thanks, I think. Elias stood. You shouldn't be walking around yet. Arya met his eyes, defiant. I've survived worse, she hesitated. But your engineer is right. You cannot outrun my father's fleet. You will need something else. Lena crossed her arms. Such as? Arya moved closer to the central console and pressed her palm against it. The lights flickered. Not from damage, but from her. The screens glowed gold, symbols spreading across every panel. "What are you doing?" Elias demanded. "I'm giving you a map," she said calmly. "To a world your kind have forgotten. A sanctuary hidden from all scanners. It's where I first learned what the galaxy had lost." The hologram bloomed before them, a swirling projection of stars, nebulae, and dark matter pathways. A single point pulsed faintly in the outer rim, beyond known trade routes. Lena squinted. "That's deep space. There's nothing there." "There is," Arya said. "Humans once had colonies there. Not many remember, but the Lyrians do. It's where your ancestors made their last stand. Long before the treaties. It's called Erlen's Wake," Elias frowned. "I've heard stories." "A graveyard world," Arya nodded slowly. "A graveyard. And a cradle. There are things buried there your people once created. Things powerful enough to turn the balance." Lena whispered. "Weapons." Arya's eyes darkened. "Hope." Elias studied her face. "Why are you helping us?" For a long time she said nothing. Then quietly, "Because if I fall back into my father's hands, he will finish the crown array. And every free voice in this galaxy will vanish. My bloodline must end or change, and I cannot do it alone." Her voice trembled, but her eyes were steady. A quiet storm of courage and regret. Elias felt something stir in him. Not trust, not yet, but understanding. He had seen soldiers sacrifice themselves for ideals smaller than this. He nodded. "Then we go to Erlen's Wake." Lena stared at him. "Sir, that's suicide." "Maybe," he said. "But if there's even a chance she's right?" He turned to Arya. "You said humanity resists. Let's prove it." Arya looked at him, really looked, and something fragile flickered in her gaze. Gratitude. Maybe even hope. Suddenly, the ship's radar beeped. Lena's head snapped up. "Incoming transmission, encrypted human frequency." Elias frowned. "From who?" She decoded it, and the message played through static. "Captain Elias Rourke, this is Commander Hayes of the Terran Resistance. We've been tracking your signal. You're carrying a high-value target. If you want to live, don't trust her." The message cut off. Silence fell. Elias turned slowly toward Arya. She met his gaze with calm defiance. "Your people fear what they don't understand. That is why your history keeps repeating itself," Lena whispered. "Captain, what if she's—" "Enough," Elias said sharply. "We're going to Erlen's Wake." Arya's eyes softened. "Then your fate and mine are now bound, Elias Rourke. Whatever follows, the galaxy will remember this day." Outside, the twin suns rose over the cliffs, their light spilling across the battered hull of the Solace. The shadows of two worlds, one human, one alien, stretched long and uncertain across the sand. 3 days later, the Solace slipped through the silence of deep space, a wounded vessel crawling toward forgotten stars. The engines hummed unevenly, patched together by Lena's sleepless work and Arya's strange, shimmering energy that seemed to hold the ship together through will alone. Elias stood in the cockpit, staring at the distant coordinates marked on the map. Erlen's Wake. It was said to be cursed, a world of ghosts and wreckage, where the bones of 1,000 ships drifted in frozen orbit. To some, a warning. To others, a promise. Lena leaned against the console, dark circles under her eyes. "We'll reach atmosphere in 10 minutes. No life signs. No active beacons, just silence." "Good," Elias said. "Silence keeps us alive." Behind them, Arya watched the stars, her fingers tracing the holographic map. "You still doubt me?" Elias didn't look back. "I've learned doubt is the only thing that keeps soldiers breathing." Her tone softened. "And faith is what makes them human." Before he could reply, the ship jolted violently. "Warnings flashed red. Graviton pull!" Lena shouted. "Something's dragging us in." Elias gritted his teeth, pulling the controls. "Stabilizers." "They're offline." Outside, the planet loomed larger, a dark, cracked world wrapped in ghostly mist. Shattered ship hulls floated like tombstones, orbiting the planet's surface. Then, without warning, the pull released. The ship dropped through the thin atmosphere, slamming into a barren wasteland of gray rock and metallic sand. When the world finally stopped spinning, there was silence and broken only by the slow hiss of cooling metal. Lena groaned, pushing herself up. "We're alive somehow." Elias checked the readings. Atmosphere's thin but breathable. Radiation minimal. We can step out. He turned to Arya, who was staring out the viewport, her eyes wide with something that looked like reverence and sorrow. This is where it ended, she whispered. What ended? Elias asked. The First War, she said softly. Your ancestors fought here when the Lyrian Empire first tried to take Earth's colonies. You were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but you didn't surrender. You fought until your ships became part of the stars themselves, Lena murmured. No one ever told us that. Because your leaders buried the truth, Arya said. They wanted you to forget. But I remember. I studied humanity. Your defiance, your compassion, your chaos. She turned toward Elias, her golden eyes shimmering. It frightened my father. Elias opened the hatch. Then maybe it's time he remembered. The air outside was cold and still. The ground shimmered faintly, littered with broken ships, old Terran designs fused with alien wreckage. Wind whispered through the hollowed hulls like the sighs of the dead. As they walked, Arya knelt beside a rusted emblem buried in the sand, a worn insignia of Earth's first fleet. She touched it gently. They died believing they'd buy time for the future. For you. Elias crouched beside her. Then let's make their sacrifice mean something. Suddenly, a faint vibration pulsed through the ground. Lena turned, scanning the horizon. Captain. Movement. From the mist, shapes emerged, tall humanoid figures made of shifting light. Their forms flickered like projections, but their presence was powerful. Arya's expression softened. They're not alive. They're echoes, guardians of this place. One of the figures stepped forward, its voice resonating in their minds. Daughter of the Crown, you carry the blood of the Destroyer. Why have you come? Elias instinctively raised his weapon, but Arya stepped between them. To end the legacy of fear my bloodline built. To awaken what your creators left behind. The specter was silent for a moment, then bowed its head. Only one of pure intent may enter the heart. The heart? Lena asked. Arya looked at the horizon where a faint golden glow pulsed beneath the mountains. It's what remains of your ancestors' final creation. A fusion of human will and Lyrian energy. A weapon not meant to destroy, but to choose who deserves power. Elias frowned. And you think it'll help us stop your father? I know it will, she said. But it will demand something first. What? She met his eyes. A sacrifice. Before Elias could respond, the ground trembled violently. The mist split open, and from above a shadow descended. The sky lit up with blue fire as a massive Lyrian warship emerged from orbit. Lena gasped. They found us again. Elias grabbed his rifle. Inside the ruins, move. Arya's golden eyes flashed as she turned toward the incoming fire. My father's hunters are relentless, Elias shouted over the roar of explosions. Then we'll give them something they've never seen before. Humans who refuse to kneel. The ruins ahead began to glow, ancient symbols awakening beneath their feet. The echoes of the fallen stirred as if answering an old promise, and as the first blast struck the valley, the heart of Erlen began to awaken. The valley blazed with pale golden light as ancient symbols flared to life beneath the sand. The air trembled, humming with invisible power. Every broken ship and shattered hull around them seemed to awaken. Engines flickering to life. Ghostly energy pulsing through their skeletal remains. Elias shielded his eyes against the radiance. What's happening? Arya's voice was steady but filled with awe. The heart is awakening. The last creation of your kind and mine. The Lyrian warship above opened fire. Plasma bolts screamed through the sky, striking the valley in waves of burning light. Shockwaves rattled the ground, but the golden glow only grew brighter. Lena crouched behind a broken hull. We can't survive another hit. Elias glanced at Arya. You said the heart wasn't a weapon. It isn't, she said, stepping forward, her silver hair lifting in the energy's pull. It's a choice. It judges those who seek control and those who seek freedom. Then make it judge fast, Elias barked. Arya closed her eyes and placed both hands on the glowing ground. The light surged, wrapping her in a halo of gold and white. Her voice carried across the storm of energy. Children of Lyra, children of Earth, your past is bound by fear. Your future must be bound by courage, the sky responded. Energy rippled outward like waves from a star's birth. The Lyrian warship's weapons froze mid-charge, systems flickering uncontrollably. Lena gasped. She's disabling them. Elias stared in disbelief. She's talking to the heart. Inside the glow, Arya's mind burned with visions, flashes of history no living soul had seen. Human fleets dying under alien fire, Lyrian generals commanding with cold perfection, and at the center of it all her father, the Emperor, his voice echoing through her thoughts. Power must be held by those strong enough to use it. Her voice trembled in response. No, power must protect the weak, or it deserves to burn. The heart pulsed violently. A beam of golden light shot skyward, piercing the clouds and striking the warship above. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Then the great ship split apart, not in fire but in radiant disintegration. It broke into motes of light, dissolving harmlessly into the upper atmosphere. Lena stared, speechless. She destroyed it, Elias whispered. No. She freed it. When the light faded, Arya collapsed. Elias rushed forward, catching her before she hit the ground. Her skin was cold, her glow fading. Hey, stay with me, he said, shaking her gently. She smiled faintly. You see now why they fear what we could become together. Lena ran diagnostics on her wrist pad. Her vitals are unstable. The heart's energy is draining her. Arya's eyes fluttered open. It's all right. It must bond with one soul to remain active. I offered mine. Elias's jaw tightened. You're saying you gave yourself to that thing? It needed faith, she whispered, and humanity's spirit was the only spark left in me. The ground beneath them rumbled again, softer this time. Not in destruction, but awakening. The wrecked ships began to rise slowly into the air, their ancient cores reigniting. Across the valley, hundreds of vessels, Terran, Lyrian, and Forgotten, hovered like resurrected guardians. Lena's voice trembled. This is impossible. Arya smiled weakly. This is Erlen's promise. When despair is greatest, the dead remember who they fought for. Elias looked up as the ships aligned themselves in orbit above the valley, forming a radiant barrier of light, a shield protecting the world below. Arya, he said softly, your father will come himself when he learns what happened here. I know, she murmured. And when he does, the heart will call for judgment one last time. Elias shook his head. Then we'll stand with you. Her golden eyes met his, faint but fierce. No, Captain. I stand with you. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was heavy with emotion, grief, gratitude, and something unspoken but real. Then Lena's scanner beeped again. Incoming warp signature, large fleet. It's the Lyrian Royal Command. Elias rose, shoulders squared, his voice calm but hard. Then this is it. Arya's gaze turned toward the sky, where distant silver shapes appeared against the stars. My father comes to claim the galaxy. Elias looked down at her, his hand brushing the dust from her shoulder. Then let's remind him who taught it to fight. Above them, the resurrected fleet shimmered with golden light, forming ranks in silence, ghostly soldiers preparing for one final stand. And as the first shadow of the Emperor's fleet darkened the horizon, the heart of Erlen pulsed again, not with destruction but with destiny. The stars trembled as the Lyrian Emperor's fleet emerged from warp. Dozens of dreadnoughts darkened the heavens above Erlen's wake, each ship vast enough to eclipse a mountain. The void shimmered with blue fire, and at the center of the formation hovered the Celestial Crown, the Emperor's flagship, its hull glowing like a burning star. Elias stood on the ridge above the valley, wind whipping through his hair, watching the impossible sight. The resurrected human fleet, spectral, ancient, bound by the heart, hovered silently above them. Machines long dead, now alive again, humming with golden light. Lena's voice trembled over the comms. They've hailed us, Captain. The Emperor himself. Elias exhaled slowly. Put him through. The hologram materialized in the air, a towering figure draped in silver armor, his eyes the same gold as Arya's but burning with cold fury. Human, he said, his voice deep and resonant. You have something that belongs to me. Elias didn't flinch. If you mean your daughter, she doesn't belong to anyone. A cruel smile ghosted across the Emperor's face. You presume much for a dying species. Do you even know what she carries? The heart is not meant for your kind. Arya stepped forward, leaning weakly on the console, her glow faint but resolute. Father, the heart is meant for every kind. You built your empire on obedience. I will end it with choice. His tone sharpened. You would defy your blood? I defy your cruelty, she said, voice trembling yet steady. You taught us to rule through fear, but humans taught me something greater, that hope can be stronger than any crown. The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed. Then you leave me no choice, he raised his hand. In orbit, his fleet opened fire. Bolts of blue plasma tore through the void, raining toward the planet like the wrath of gods. But before they could strike, the heart of Erlen pulsed once more. The resurrected fleet responded as if alive, forming an unbreakable wall of golden light that absorbed every blast. Elias clenched his fists. Lena, get those ships under coordinated control. I'm trying, sir, but they're responding to her. Arya's hands were glowing again, energy flowing from her body into the heart's network. The fleet moved like a single organism, human and Lyrian ships flying side by side, united by her will. The Emperor's fury shook the stars. You think this will stop me? You are a child playing with gods. Arya's reply was soft but filled with conviction. Then let the gods watch. The resurrected fleet surged forward. Energy lances of gold clashed against the Emperor's blue fire. Space itself rippled, an orchestra of light and thunder that echoed across the system. Elias watched the sky burn. Lena, reroute power to the lower thrusters. We're joining the fight, she blinked. Sir, that's suicide. He gave her a faint grin. Yeah, but it'll make history worth reading. The Solace roared into the sky, its battered engines straining as it climbed through the clouds. Above, the heart's light illuminated everything, every dying ship. Every beam of energy, every shadow of fear turned to courage. Then, through the storm of fire, Arya's voice echoed. Not from her lips, but from the heart itself resonating across every channel, every mind. All who hear me, listen. Your blood, your shape. Your world does not decide your worth. Only your choices do. The galaxy will no longer bow to fear. The heart flared once more, brighter than any sun. The Emperor's fleet halted, their systems frozen, their weapons silent. In the hologram, the Emperor staggered, his voice cracking. Arya, what have you done? She stood taller, the last of her strength blazing like fire. I've freed them, even you. Then the heart released its final pulse. Not an explosion, but a wave of light that swept across space like dawn breaking after endless night. Every Lyrian ship shimmered, their deadly blue glow fading to gold. The soldiers aboard fell silent, their minds touched by something they had never felt before. Peace. The Emperor fell to his knees, his armor flickering. His final words were barely a whisper. My daughter, you've undone eternity. I've given it meaning, she said softly. The light faded, the heart went still, and Arya collapsed into Elias's arms, her glow dimming. Arya, he whispered, voice breaking, stay with me. We won. Her hand trembled as she reached for his. No, Elias. We all did. Then her fingers relaxed, and the golden shimmer around her vanished into the wind. Silence fell over the galaxy. The war was over. Days later, as dawn rose over a rebuilt Erlen's wake, Elias stood beside a memorial of silver and gold. It bore no names, just a single line, carved in both human and Lyrian script. Freedom is not born in blood, but in the courage to change what we are. Lena stepped beside him. Do you think she's gone? Elias looked up at the sky, where faint trails of golden light still shimmered like eternal starlight. No, he said quietly. She's part of the heart now, and as long as it beats, she's watching. The wind stirred gently, carrying a whisper only he could hear, a voice like distant music. Thank you for teaching me what it means to be human. Elias smiled faintly, eyes glistening. No, princess. You taught us. And as the light of dawn spread across the horizon, two worlds, once divided by fear, rose together beneath the same sun,